disgusting features and fashions in property that actually make you money. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. How you going?
Good. How are you? On this
Good.
Sort of grey day. I was going to say sunny, but I was looking in the wrong window.
Yeah, I think there's sun and there's greys. I'm not sure. Typical Sydney, typical Australia at the moment. I don't know what to think with the weather.
Yeah, it just keeps you guessing.
Yep.
Just like transition, just like trends in real estate and interior design, always keeping you guessing.
It's forever changing, and we've been talking off air and having a lot of fun with fashions in real estate and what they're actually doing. It is absolutely crazy what they're doing, isn't it?
It's very weird. Like I feel like in the past 5 years, we're seeing such a huge shift in what's fashionable and what's not, and you're seeing a lot of different tastes come out. And it's one topic that's got, as you were saying off air, like we could talk about it for hours. There's so much to cover.
It's nuts. Let's get into it. There's things. What I really wanted to tie this back to was, if you are doing fashionable or anything you're doing to your property, please consider what we're going to talk about today, because these things are going to lose you money in a horrible way or make you money in a horrible way in time. They'll crystallize to be diamonds, or they'll crystallize to be coal, depending on how you approach these fashionable items in your property. And you're still going to have fun, so it's a real balance between. You don't want to be conservative, so let's fire away.
Yeah, so I think one of the first things we were talking about what's coming in and what's coming out. So I guess one of the biggest trends I think we're seeing in the coming years is the shift to being more environmentally conscious. And that's like having more, like you were seeing it, like more earthy tones are coming into people's properties and homes. We're looking more at like oranges and reds and browns. And that's sort of that shift that we've seen in minimalism that was really popular in the early 2010s.
And sustainability.
Sustainability, yeah. Like even we just had a property sell, I think it was 92 Toronto Avenue in Cromer, and they have lots of different like environmentally conscious aspects included in the home. So like having just like a bit more like safer aircon and being really energy resourceful throughout the home. So I think that's something I think won't really go away. I think that's one trend that's going to continue to go upward as we see more environmental awareness.
Yeah, I think well said. Sustainability with property renovations, I think, is respected. It's people don't want to invest too heavily with their dollars with it, but they do want to have that consideration about it. So it's pretty amazing that word sustainability hasn't gone away. When it first started, I used to have a chuckle about it, but it's not going away, and it's growing more and more very slowly.
Yeah. And we're seeing it like, I think functional furniture and like functional pieces inside the home are really getting more popular as well. So rather than having like sculptures or little decorative pieces that's all it is, it's decoration, we're seeing people turn to more like functional pieces. So like furniture that's got like storage built into it, and like so coat racks as a piece of decoration, like something, everything's got a use now.
How does IKEA keep coming up with this stuff?
I know. Well,
You're like, why didn't I think of that? That piece of footage has been around for 20, 30 years. How did you think of doing that? It blows me away.
I reckon it's that chick. What's her, Marie Kondo, who was like, she brought in that whole thing like, oh, keep one thing, get rid of 5 things. It's that whole thing of like, don't keep stuff you don't need anymore. So, but yeah, IKEA's thriving. I read this thing yesterday and it was saying that IKEA is the reason that it's so successful is because people are more likely to keep furniture that they've said, oh, I've built that myself. So their whole business model is built around like you actually build the furniture that they provide to you, and it's cheaper cost for them.
Because of the pride factor. Now let's blast through the fashionable, the disgusting fashions that are going to make people money or potential lose people or lose people money depending on what it's like. And I think the important thing here is there's a lot of stuff that people are doing in properties that that won't stand the test of time. And I think that's a huge consideration what we're going to talk about today, that whatever you're doing to your place, just, it may be on trend, friggin' awesome. And the second thing you're going to do on it, which is similar, may be friggin' awesome. When you look at those two things that you're going to do, for instance, like a wall colour, please don't make the consideration of what only looks shit hot at the moment, but make the consideration of what's going to look shit hot in over a longer period of time, especially when you've got stuff that's not interchangeable cheaply, like a kitchen bench top or a kitchen cupboard or a splashback. The colour choice, super important. Go wild on your paint. Don't go wild on your kitchen cupboards. Let's go through these items quick and sequentially that you've spoken about.
Well, I know off air we were talking about different types of lights and how we've seen a shift. It was like, as you were saying, there was oyster lights and then there were down lights. And did you want to speak more about that quickly, Mark?
Have a think about, very quickly, have a think about your lighting in your property. Again, what is going to stand the test of time. I'm surprised how down lights have stayed so fashionable, even though they seem to have actually changed in their look and feel. In principle, they're the same thing. But people went wild putting in down lights into properties, and they've sort of trended away a little bit more to wall lighting, like sconces, or lamps and stuff like that, like a soft light. Light temperature, I think, has changed in fashion, and that's an easy one to change. It's like paint, where if you have a cold white light, it feels like a hospital. If you have a warm white light, dimmable, it's a much more comfortable warm room to be in as well. And I think that dimmable is the way to go with lighting to make money in the future, particularly in places like bedrooms and living rooms. Kitchens and bathrooms, people don't really care about the dimmable, but I think it's worth an investment in lighting. It will make you money. It is fashionable because it makes such a big difference, such a big impact very quickly.
Yeah, I agree about the dimmable lights. Like, we've got a few in our house, and like even just this, it just automatically makes me think of birthdays, because we always just dim the lights when it's candle time, and it makes just the mood shifts completely, and it just makes me think of that. But it's something, it changes the whole atmosphere of a room just like so quickly. And I think you're right, that's one trend that probably isn't going to go out of date anytime soon.
100%.
I'm just looking at this list we had. We were talking about, I read this one article that said that open plan living is one that's sort of in question at the moment, because with the shift in working from home at COVID and being around other people and wanting your own space, there's been a sort of shift to wanting some private areas in the house. So I think that's one that I'm not going to say open plan living is going to go completely out the door, but I think that's something that we're probably going to see a lot more flexibility in. So even if having like an open plan living space, we'll probably see like people include like separators into the room that sort of make your own private space within that space. I don't know. That's one that's sort of up in the air at the moment.
Well, I've seen at the moment a trend where it's a wall, and the wall pulls out of the wall to go straight down the middle of the room and create two rooms, like a dining room and a lounge and things like that, and then the potential for the dining room to close up into the wall and go back out. So I think that with smaller homes, people were coming together after a working week, after a 5-day working week, and they wanted to come together into a room. Whereas I think now in a 7-day environment that everyone's at home, that separation is really important. So it's an interesting thing to watch with fashion, how rooms are going to be treated with separation, with people not coming, like wanting that separation more and wanting to come together. So rooms are sort of having to do a couple of things at once now, rather than just be a lounge room.
Yeah, everything. It's got like a multifunctional vibe now after COVID. And then this is more just, working on people's emotions is a good point. And I think we're seeing that trend in like wanting those warm colors and wanting everything to feel really homely. I think that's a big trend. And that's a big shift from minimalism, which is one of our outs of today. I think minimalism was very popular in the 2010s, having all white everything. But we're slowly seeing that pull away. Like people are wanting to put feature walls in their properties now. We're even in like, if we're looking at like commercial like buildings. So I always use Brookvale as an example, how that whole industrial vibe, like that trend's really coming up, like seeing how things work, but it's like built like within to show you. I'm thinking breweries. I'm thinking about Bucketies and Brookvale. Everything's it's very rustique.
Yeah, and I think that, with what Luke's mentioned about working on people's emotions, all of these things are clipping back to emotions. That emotion, that how that actually makes you feel. And I think that with these trends, like when I just say dimmable lights or not dimmable lights, how lighting's changed. Everything used to be non-dimmable. Now everything's starting to get to be dimmable. It automatically creates that emotion for you of comfort or home and things like that. And I think that all these things that you're talking about, they're all tying back to emotion. All these fashions. It's really interesting. What else we got on the list?
Well, we've got decoration without a purpose. So we've sort of touched on that briefly before. So people are looking at getting more pieces that do more than one thing rather than just serving as a decoration, getting away from that clutter, like the idea of clutter, I think is one thing. Things we had in sort of the middle we were talking about was like flowers and fake flowers, which is something.
So when you hear the word flake flowers, the hairs stand up the back of your neck and you go, ew. But as much as you don't like to admit it, people, they are everywhere. They are very high quality now. They're not. You almost cannot tell the difference when you touch them. And they're in a lot of restaurants, cafes, homes, and nobody questions it. Palms. When you go to Coco Republic, for instance, or furniture shops, they've got some really good examples of them. So I'm not going to say they're on trend, but I'm not going to say they're out of fashion anymore like they always have been.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. I remember Jess talked about this in like a few episodes back when we were talking about celebrity homes. And I think it was Lisa Vanderpump spent like so much money. The biggest thing she spent money on in her house was flowers because she always had real flowers. But it's giving that atmosphere. Like I've definitely I worked in restaurants and I was watering flowers that I only realized were fake after watering like 20 pots of them. So they do.
They're really good.
They're great. I've got fake flowers in my room, just like a few bits and pieces there, but it adds to it, and they look good when you can tell that they're not fake, I will say.
And it hasn't stopped us from buying flowers. That people are still buying the flower, doing the flower thing, buying the flower thing, but it's more of a surplus of more flowers in the property as a fashion.
Yeah. And then some other things that are sort of in at the moment is I think we're seeing a lot of like sculptural and curved pieces. Like I've seen lots of like coffee tables, for example. So we're getting away from sort of like square and like all the same, like stock standard. And we're getting more into like unique sort of looking pieces. So like there's been a thing with like curved decks outside, and I don't know, we're seeing lots of circular shapes at the moment and archways.
And it costs a hell of a lot of money in architecture. A lot of unit blocks are introducing the curves. Costs a bucket load when you start doing windows and curves and things like that. But I think people are trying to have a bit more fun. And also with fashion, the products. I've noticed textured walls in wallpapers, for instance, leathers. like people are really starting to have a little bit of fun, with that sort of, you can see in a lot of these new hotels now, the way that they're finishing out. There's so many different features that people are introducing. So that's I guess getting on fashion. You know what's interesting, and it was just last night I had a friend made a comment. He'd stayed in a hotel recently, and he said he feels like you're inside a car. So he said some of the fittings that they're doing, like we were standing inside of a lift of a hotel, and he was looking around the lift, and he said it feels like a Jag, like there's leather and there's graphite, and like they're using a lot of different products now.
Yeah.
Which is really cutting edge fashion with architects and stuff like that. That it's getting, well, look at even like a car interior. It's wicked now. All the stuff they're using, and it used to be cloth seats.
Yeah. Well, speaking of I stayed at a hotel recently, and that was another thing that I forgot to put on my list. But they mentioned that floor to ceiling curtains is something that's like quite in, because
that's a big one.
Yeah, and it really opens up the space. I remember this hotel we stayed at, it was like the whole idea of the hotel, it's called Little National. The whole idea is that everything's quite small, but in the space, like you wouldn't even imagine, like it's so open, everything, as we said, it's all warm. There's all different like lighting settings. They had like ambient lighting with the dim lights. But the long curtains, and that's something I feel like, I'll knock on wood saying this, but I think that offers you enough privacy that you can, like, it's private if you want it to be, but it also opens the space up so much more.
So, and just to go right back to the beginning of what you just said, all window finishings used to fit the window only. Whether it was a curtain, whether it was a blind, whether it was a shutter, it would only fit that hole. And that's definitely changed now. People are taking it from the top of the ceiling, from the ceiling all the way down to the floor, and often they're going the full width of the wall, and making that curtain almost a feature. That's on trend.
Yeah. And I think,
is it going to go away, that one? That's an interesting one.
I don't know. I think curtains are one thing. Like if you look at the curtains in like the 70s and anything from the 70s, a lot of the time you'd be like, oh, I don't know now, but my idea is that trends are sort of cyclical. Like a lot of the stuff that we've seen in the past where we've been like, oh, I don't know, is now sort of coming back in. So it's just a matter of finding that balance, looking back in time, seeing what was popular, what's in, what's out, and what sort of stayed stagnant throughout it.
So do you look to the stuff that's gone out of fashion and suggest that that's going to come in fashion and be rewrapped in a different way?
Well, I'm calling it now. I think we're going to see like a reemergence of like 70s, that whole like, all like the oranges and the reds and the yellows, like all the like the varnished kitchens. I have a feeling, and I feel like we're going to look back at it in 20 years' time, be like, why did we do that?
Yeah. So it's there. So that's a show. That's a really hopefully everyone out there, you've enjoyed these observations and these things on property. Hopefully you've learnt a bit about what not to do and what to do in your property renovations when you're doing stuff, the approach to take and what's going to make you money. But it's probably left me a bit more confused than assured. Because there's so many variables to fashion with property.
Yeah, and it varies like across every person. Like what one person can find really nice, another person can find horrible. So I think it's just finding something that works in your home that it'll appeal to the majority. I think is probably the safest bet.
That's the safest thing. That's going to make you money.
Oh, too good.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much, Nat. Nat, what did I call you this morning? The media.
The media
baroness. The media baroness.
Media
That's
baroness.
doing all the media. Nat's in the media team at Novak, doing a lot of our media and doing a fantastic job. Thank you for today, and have a great day, and everyone have a beautiful day.
Oh, easy. Thank you, Mark.
One more thing, Billy, Trailblazer Awards tonight. Announcement, will Billy Drury win the Trailblazer Award, a national award that domain.com.au is handing out to a young gun, one young gun. He's got down to the final 8.
Amazing stuff. I'll definitely be sitting on the edge of my seat.
Can't wait. Take care, everyone. Good luck, Billy. See ya.